together like a storm. My warm and patient crowd. Thoughts have taken form that I need to tell someone about. Before the hands that tell my time have finally spun out, would you please seize this moment with me for music? Music now. Those are right.
I bet Rihanna is not pregnant anymore, is she? I just haven't checked in with her since she was, and she just stayed pregnant in my head. It's likely that at least once in your life you've encountered someone who said that they were born in the wrong generation, without a shred of irony. This kind of statement is often a little embarrassing because it tends to be predicated on just one single cultural phenomenon that the person who says it is attracted to, while totally disregarding all the scientific and social progress we've made since then that makes life a lot more bearable for people today than it used to be. Vaccines come to mind. My mind, at least. I don't know who watches this. Not to ostracize anyone. To fetishize the roaring 20s so much that you would do away with today's legal, easy-to-come-by beverages, which are frequently brewed with standardized water quality in exchange for bathtub moonshine, is a little wild. But even then, if you're having fun fantasizing about participating in a nightlife scene where it's common to wear flapper fashion, isn't it a little bit bold of you to assume that you would even be at a speakeasy if you're not underground today? I feel like the people that are into that aesthetic today don't leave their house on a Friday evening. At the same time, it's not hard to imagine where someone could be coming from when they say something like this. I mean, I can empathize with being enchanted by a period piece movie or a classic jazz record and then sort of wanting to cloak myself in that energy while I walk down the street, imagining that other people can see me in like monochrome or something. I also do get having a slight sense of remorse for having been born too late to experience the moment your favorite music came out. I like OK Computer, but Radiohead released it in 1997 and my mom released me in 1998, so... When I first listened to the album in 2023, I loved it, but I had to discover it by myself. Had I been on Earth in 1997... maybe I could have shared my first listen with other people. Maybe I could have gone to concerts together with them. Instead, I'm here and now. Claim. The date at which music is released shapes it and alters it over time. I really like the idea of being perceived as a philosopher, but I don't think I would ever actually become one because I don't want to do my academic due diligence. Like sometimes I just want to say stuff that I think sounds smart, like the date at which music is released shapes and alters it over time, without actually having to like proof that it is really smart, you know? Just want to play a little fast and loose, that's all. Just want to have a little fun. To understand that you and me and culture and society and everything else is embedded in time and that there is a history that precedes it and that there is a future to follow, this is often referred to as historical consciousness.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.
To have this kind of experience can sometimes lead to an odd bit of nostalgia because you were literally still spermatozoan around at the time that the thing happened that you feel nostalgic for. For most Beatles fans, their favorite band was already a classic by the time that they achieved regular consciousness, let alone historical. I mean, John Lennon was killed in 1998. If you want, you can still read about Beatlemania to get a sense of what it must have been like, but to really feel it in your bones, Johnny, that moment has sort of passed you up, you know? Recording techniques have blessed us with the ability to listen to music that came out outside of our lifespans. That is amazing to think about. But I do think that if you play older music, you can tell that something has passed from it. I mean, you and I are not going to have the same experience listening to Delta blues as someone literally living through the Great Depression, right? This is why it's really important to listen to music that is coming out today. You and I are the only people in all of human history that will ever get to taste today's music now that it's still ripe. This goes really undervalued in my opinion. When music nerds go on online fora and discuss their favorite music, albums, artists, songs, whatever, most of the stuff that tends to be discussed comes from the second half of the previous century. Here's a graph. And you know, like this makes sense because obviously that's when most of like modern music started to bloom. We shape our identity with our elected favorites, and if you want to be respected or seem like you know ball, it's easier to... Can you tell that that's not a natural sentence for me? It's safe to pick stuff that has clearly stood the test of time. If you're feeling a little fringe, maybe you can pick something obscure from the early 60s and argue why Screaming Lord Sutch is a really underrated act, especially if you consider his work with the official Monster Raving Loony Party. But for some reason, listing a more recent album as your favorite is always a bit of a tough sell. You'll be told that you're subject to recency bias, or that there was another act that did what your favorites do earlier, or that you're just swallowed by the hype. Guys, it's a privilege to experience hype, especially in an age of uber-personalized social media algorithms that are perfectly tailored to you and your tastes and nobody else. Like, we should treasure communal enthusiasm for new releases. For this reason, I actually kind of like The Needle Drop and their yellow flannel system, because I think he has this image of someone who puts a lot of care into why he does or doesn't like a piece of music, and he's got a well-developed taste. So a lot of people think like, oh, he's a good springboard for me to check out new music. The cool thing about the yellow flannel system is that you can see in the thumbnail of videos that he's wearing something yellow. That means that like he scored the album an 8 out of 10 or higher. So you don't even have to hear what he says. You don't have to have your well be poisoned by his opinions. They don't even have to have preconceived notions of an artist to check it out. Like, I think that really lowers the threshold for people to explore new music instead of just spinning Dark Side of the Moon for the quintillionth time. There's so much beautiful art just wanting to find you out there. Like, just wanting to color this year in your life. Don't you want that? Don't you want your life to have a soundtrack? Don't you want your memories to flood back to you, like to regain your wherewithal one more time when the nurse puts on death grips in the old people's hostel?
Where am I?
Tite Kubo, the mangaka for the manga Bleach, put these little dossiers at the end of some of his early chapters to expand on the personalities of his characters. And one thing he did that I really appreciate is that he gave all of them theme songs. And the songs that he picked were all relatively recent at the time that he released Bleach, which is 2001. It just fits. Like, I can imagine all these characters listening to the songs he picked on their headphones while walking to Japanese high school. Like, of course, Urio would be the type to tinker with early MP3 technology just so he could listen to Idiotech, you know? That makes sense. Some people dislike when artists date their work in this way, but I think I actually kind of prefer it. I think art's ability to anchor to a moment in time is actually a very powerful thing that can help soothe that cosmic level of despair that you can feel when you realize that all of your lifetime is nothing but a blip in all of history's totality. And I think that, you know, like, good art can maybe put up a light post in the blackness that came before us to help us see that there was something there. And in that same way, like, even though we can't sense them right now, but maybe good art that comes out today can be a light post for people in the future, in the blackness ahead of us, that are looking back right now, trying to make sense of things. This, incidentally, is also the point of this video. I wanted to highlight a bunch of music that I really appreciate right now in December 2025. Specifically music that's come out in the last 3 to 4 years. Talk about it, explain why I like it, put it in a little bottle, have it be a little time capsule and just throw it out on the internet, and maybe in December 2029 this will wash up on someone's feed and they'll be like, oh, how neat. A video from before the second pandemic. So yeah, it's the 17th of December 2025. It is 15 past 13. This is music now.
There are 2 songs by Brian David Gilbert that I seasonally return to just because they make me think of spring. They're called Nesting Season and Don't Tell Your Wife About This Game. Brian David Gilbert is this really cool artist on YouTube, if you've never heard of them. It makes fun songs and cool sketches. And these 2 songs just prove how far a good premise goes, you know? Like, such specific stories in both of them. Nesting Season is about how Brian David Gilbert sees a finch outside of his window fighting with its reflection, thinking that it's another bird, being territorial. He sort of reflects about that and sees himself in the finch fighting things that are not important or something. And then Don't Tell Your Wife About This Game is like one of those funny, such a fucking funny premise. It's like, Don't Tell Your Wife About This Game is literally about those sort of like lewd games that advertise you with like, uh-oh, you should not show your girlfriend this. She's going to be mad at you for playing a sexy game. She's going to scold you for enjoying these slider adjustable anime titties. Brian David Gilbert just takes it in a direction where it actually does ruin the relationship. And like the sort of like the little avatar in the ad feels sad for this man who is going to jeopardize his relationship even further. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's nice. I think it's nice. By the way, this was one of 3 people on YouTube that I'm going to shout out because I kind of want to challenge the idea that people that make stuff online, like on YouTube, and then make music are just as valid as artists musically as people that just do music. Because I think, like, you know, whatever, you understand.
Is this thing on? This is like if the End of Time from Chrono Trigger was a stand-up set. Geese and Cameron Winter. Let's ignore all the indie fans rolling their eyes for a second. They have a right to be annoyed. All their favorite online spaces are currently flooded with Geese discourse. I first caught wind of Geese in 2024. I was intrigued by 3D Country's album cover because it literally promised something explosive. The opening track immediately delivered on that. 2122 sounds like if Black Dog by Led Zeppelin caught Australian rabies and then just like runs through a glass door and dies. I think Cowboy Nudes is just an incredible example of a happy, impressive song. To be so hooky and so catchy and then decide to just throw in a drum solo like that. I love how in general Geese does a really good job of disproving the myth that if you want to make something really good, you have to be like a tortured, sad genius. You can also be a well-meaning maniac. Then lead singer Cameron Winter releases a solo album last year in December called Heavy Metal, and I brace myself. Because what do you think is gonna happen when a guy that sings like this releases an album called Heavy Metal? But heavy metal subverts all expectations, because the second your toes breach the water surface, you'll realize that these are not at all the sloshing waves of the whirlpool you anticipated.
Instead, you find yourself in a tub, surrounded by the yellowing tile of a quiet bathroom, reminiscent of your grandparents' house when they were still alive, and Mr. Mushroom from the Hollow Knight games sprouts from the toilet to lecture you on how love is hard work in that signature unfollowable way of his.
Cameron Winter's vocals and lyrics are like if Chris Fleming's comedy was 100% earnest.
Have you ever run your hand through the crew cut of a cop?
These are the only 2 ways I can explain this album to you. Earlier this year, Geese released Getting Killed, and it was a bit of a full circle moment for me. It sounds like heavy metal was outfitted with the 3D Country engine. It's a bit less riffs and dynamics than 3D Country and more like texture and lyrics. In the same month as Getting Killed, Silk Song came out, and I've played the hell out of that game, and Bone Bottom has a beautiful theme, don't get me wrong. But when I think about that area and exploring it, what comes to mind is General Adams' insane dogmas that you can hear on 100 Horses.
General Adams told me, "Son, you were born to die scared, but not to worry, for all people are born to die scared, or else they'll die nervous."
I saw Cameron Winter live earlier this month. Fittingly, it was a stripped-down and low-key concert, just him and a grand piano. Yeah, I don't know, it was inspiring to hear him sing his crooked lyrics about love and everyday objects so unabashedly with that strange, resonant voice of his. There's a lot about his music that I would say isn't conventionally beautiful or elegant. And if I were in his shoes, feeling that way would keep me from feeling at ease to perform. Which in turn impresses me because I don't think that he is doing some weird challenge to the form or like an academic thing where he tries to make the coarseness the point. I really think that he just believes what he says. Also, to Mika, the guy that we struck up a conversation with while in the queue for the merchandise at the Cameron Winter concert, it was really nice talking to you. Jesse Ware.
I wanted to highlight a bunch of music that I really appreciate right now, specifically music that's come out in the last 3 to 4 years.
The time frame that I selected for songs that were allowed to make it on this list at the earliest cuts off at 2022. I just sort of feel like that's the year that we kind of started transitioning into a different era from the pandemic time to the post-pandemic time. And I can't help but feel like songs that came out during the period between 2019 and 2022, those albums and artists, well, those are not those artists, but like that music that came out then is marked so strongly by the time that it came out in that it's already been warped by the passage of time a little bit. The problem is that with this entry on the list, I'm kind of bending my own rules a little bit. I feel like disco coming back is a bit of a meme at this point. Disco coming back is like saying your dad's gonna come back from the store. Like, probably not tomorrow, but one day for sure. Right? I will say though that like this last bout of disco coming back, it's good with L'Impératrice and Jungle and stuff, but Jessie Ware is my favorite. I feel like she just does it better, and also like with L'Impératrice and Jungle, it never ceases to be referential to me. Yes, your production is great and you sound good, but are you even really remembering Chic, or are you remembering Daft Punk remembering Chic, you know? Like it just feels like there's like so many layers of reference. Jessie Ware, I don't have this as much, but then I do love a strong lead vocalist, so... Jessie Ware released her album That Feels Good in 2023, but she kicked off her disco revivalism with What's Your Pleasure in 2020. So the reason that I'm kind of bending my rules is because, I just like What's Your Pleasure better than That Feels Good, even though they're both great. But yeah, to be fair, I'll just say one thing about What's Your Pleasure and nothing else. And that is that the opener, Spotlight, is just a perfect song to me. I love that song. I play it again and again. Like it's crazy how it like simultaneously communicates look at me and dance with me, but also like listen to me. I don't know. It's just, I love it. It's beautiful. The vocal harmonies and the like little layers and like how it like this beautiful theatrical opening leads to this like sort of understated bass line section is great. That Feels Good is basically What's Your Pleasure's older, dancier, bubblier sister. And you can hear this immediately on the opening track, which is That Feels Good, because it just starts with this choir of voices collectively sliding into a bubble bath, and they just all go like, ah, that feels good. Which, that's not me doing a metaphor like with the fucking bathroom earlier. That's literally what it sounds like. That's how it opens. It has a great bass line. Jessie Ware's vocals are like flirty and breathy, and it sounds like a great track to start off a night, like a Friday night while you're like putting up your hair and doing your jewelry and stuff. I don't know what that feels like, but that's what it sounds like to me. Yeah, and then like Begin Again is just this grand, opulent, beautiful song. I can't help but picture Be Our Guest from Belle and the Beast, but if it was like a cool James Bond song somehow, I don't know. And I adore Hello Love. I feel like it's one of the best love songs from the 20s so far. I just love how she sings it. It's so hopeful. It's so like ready for love. It's great. I love it. Don't really want to describe it much more than that. And then the album closes out with 2 more songs that both use these very nostalgic sounding chord schemes that sort of use the minor third. That's maybe a bit of a pet peeve, but many singer-songwritery types will discover that you can make the minor third a major and go like, oh. Yeah, I love this album. It's great. I remember being in a bit of a music rut when I decided to give Everything Harmony a spin in 2023. I had worn D'Angelo to a nub and realized I needed to try something different. So on a sunny day in early spring, when winter comes around, scored my walk to the grocery store. It was a cute nostalgic ballad with some pretty vocals that I didn't take much more note of than the cheap plastic of my grocery bag getting sticky inside my hand while I reflected on my father's recent death. I greeted the cheery local homeless man who always sits by the grocery store with his dog, and then walked through the sensor doors as Everything Harmony's morphine drip started to kick in. I know the exact part of the supermarket aisle in which, any time of day, stopped me in my tracks. I had just taken a bag of chips from the shelf. To other shoppers it must have looked like I was studying it intently. That's really all I need to tell you. When I went to see them live last September, it turned out to be my favorite concert I've ever been to at this point in my life. If you are in the mood for something that is completely devoid of cynicism, listen to the Lemon Twigs. Matt Watson is one half of the Super Mega Funny Brothers. If you are a fan of YouTubers from the Let's Player Bronze Age, you may have heard of them. They are a sketch comedy channel that sometimes makes music videos and has even tried their own hand at making Let's Plays.
So, Forrest, do you know kanji yet?
Lieutenant Dan, I don't even know what kanji is.
Frustrated by the general consensus that Ryan is the funnier brother, Matt Watson set off to pursue a solo career in music in the beginning of this decade. While not the same cultural juggernaut as Ouch, I believe that See You There is the superior work, and I will die on that hill. In all seriousness though, I think it's like really impressive what he did here. This album kind of sounds like what steampunk would be for people that are really into flip phone ringtones and VHS tapes. And, you know, like it's inspiring to think that Matt Watson could make something this good all by himself so soon after leaving that lifestyle behind. It's genuinely inspiring.
Are you ready for some fucking cynicism?
Listening to Wallsocket by Underscores is like having a noisy, morose, hyper-pop, pop-punk flavored panic attack that you will later report to your friends about with an odd air of pride, which will flummox and worry them, but also not seem like an acute reason to take repercussions. It contains the musings of stalkers, internet chat room sex crime victims, someone's fork-tongued flattery of a generational wealth recipient, the desperate inner monologue of someone with a chronic illness, and wild, glitchy production.
Then turn right. Don't listen to her.
This album sounds like it shares in nature with Britney Spears, and then got nurtured like Britney Spears. Wallsocket is also a treasure trove for all of you lore fiends. It has the best world building out of all the projects I'm presenting today. I had never heard about this concept before, but the album is connected to something called an alternative reality game, or ARG for short, where clues to a hidden story are left in several online and sometimes real-life places. For example, there is a website for a fictional Midwestern town called Wallsocket that includes a message board for local moms in which characters and events that feature on the album are discussed, as if it's real life. It sounds like ARGs would be a healthy alternative for people that are really into conspiracy theories. But there really is no need to dig that deep. The lyrics on this album are incredibly evocative. Cops and Robbers is a 4-minute long, self-contained heist movie song. Duh features a paranoid narrator's reasoning for why her illness must be a message from above. Good Luck, Final Girl is a bizarrely understated acoustic closer. The phrase good luck appears several times throughout this story, but even on this relatively sane-sounding closer, I can't say that it feels like any instance of the phrase was uttered in a well-meaning way. If you think your vestibulocochlear nerve and mental health can handle this assault, you should check out Underscores. How are you doing, buddy? Still hanging in there? Okay, last one. It's really been a long day. I feel a bit apprehensive to praise CJ the X. They appear to have a mission statement to enable and encourage artists to make stuff that they've wanted to make for a long time, which is obviously really good, but whenever a person has the effect on me that they intend to have, I always get very antagonistic. I was aware that they put out music, but only gave it a shot when they marketed their new EP in this video essay of all places. I was sort of half expecting to encounter that, those who can't do teach, but it turns out that some who teach can do. It's only fair to give them their wilted flowers. They've actually released 2 EPs, Overgrowth and Sobermore, and I think they're both really good. I love that they're short. To release something small but tight is a cool move, as if to say, like, I thought really hard about it and this is all the time I need. As expected, the lyrics are eloquent and poetic, and in terms of depth, Overgrowth is pretty strip-mineable. I may be hearing this wrong, but I think they sampled Bo Burnham's scream from Bezos 1.
Then we get one beat of Bo screaming and that's the end of the song. It's inevitable. It's basking in its own glory. It's repeating and it's compressing and it's speeding up and it won't stop, and Bo is dragged along with it whether or not he likes it, and he screams because he doesn't know what else to do. It makes me laugh every time.
Kind of seems like Overgrowth and Sobermore they're like mirrors, where Overgrowth is like this story of like a descent as a result of a broken up relationship. Sobermore kind of feels like this like odyssey back, which culminates in Ellis, which is a song about loving their new partner and being in a good place. And I don't know, like a Carousel, the end of Overgrowth, they say that only they can blow on their dice, and then in Sobermore they say, if you know me then you know that I'm never rolling dice. Yeah, the titles use similar letters. I don't know, I think it's neat. Okay, that was kind of an intense day. It's a new one now and I feel a lot better, so welcome back. It's the 18th of December, and yeah. Alright, let's do some honorable mentions. Patterns in Repeat by Laura Marling. Folk record about motherhood and quiet living. I really loved Song for Our Daughter in 2019, and I feel like this album is kind of like the answer to that album. Just beautiful album. Imagine Dragons. Just kidding. Imaginal Disc by Magdalena Bay. Everybody loves this album. I almost didn't want to include it, but That's My Floor just rules. So does Killing Time. Feeling Disconcerted is a great title. Just go listen to it. It's an incredible album. It kind of like, to me, it sounds like if Titanic Rising by Wise Blood was danceable. It's great. It's a beautiful album. Sometimes I find her voice a little bit annoying. Same thing about Renaissance by Beyonce, by the way. Everybody likes it. Don't need to sing its praises too much. If you haven't heard it, like, where were you? And How Do You Escape? Javelin, Sufjan Stevens. Grief, Death, Life, Love. Like if A Crow Looked at Me was more danceable. All of it is in here, and I really hope that Sufjan's doing better soon, because this album is really sad, but also beautiful. Clancy, 21 Pilots. It's hilarious that this band now has to be taken seriously ever since The Needle Drop gave Trench an 8 out of 10. Just listen to the first 5 tracks, you can skip the rest. Next up is anything by Natalia Lafourcade from the last 5 years. The Forever Story by Jid. So, I don't know how, but for some reason, ever since I learned how to edit, I understand this album better now. It's not like watching a movie, but it is like sort of like thematically it grows and goes somewhere. And it's what it means to be an artist professionally, how to like engage with your family on that topic because they're like rightfully concerned for your well-being, because generally speaking, pursuing art is not the most financially stable option. I just really like that part. Every winter in January, I listen to Dawn FM by The Weeknd once. I go on a long walk in a forest somewhere, especially if it's like all crispy and frozen. I only listen to it once because that's all I need and that's all I want, really, but I do every time. So who knew that Jim Carrey could be so profound? I feel like that's not a hot take. I feel like people know that. Next up is Viva Las Vengeance by Panic at the Disco. I'll make my case one day. Also, I just want to say, sometimes pop music just hits, so Lana by SZA. Also, shout-outs to Chaperone, obviously, and Billie Eilish and Olivia Rodrigo for each having released something cool in the last 3 years. Oh, and also, I kind of want to throw in Amber Mark. Jack White, No Name, I just have like a personal story with that I really like that I'm not going to tell you right now because it's a fucking lightning round. But I will say that the way that Archbishop Harold Holmes trails off as if he's still continuing to rant while he's making his way to another town, like really speaks to my imagination and I love it. Similar to Jack White's No Name, Sable Fable by Bon Iver. They just made a basic album in their genre of choice and sort of showed that when they return from their sort of more experimental adventures and come back to what they started out with, they can still prove that they're masters of their craft. I love Award Season on that album. Just beautiful song. It deserves an award. And then like finally, all of these albums are pretty cool. I don't have time. Okay. That's enough. I've said the word album so many times in the last 48 hours. I really wanted this to be a short video, so let's discuss one more piece of music, and then I'll do a little outro, and then we're done. Lahai by Sampha is really special to me, but I don't think that I'm at a point yet where I can aptly describe what it is. Most albums that I really love sooner or later take a form and solidify, but for whatever reason, Lahai is still gaseous to me, even after 2 years of listening. It deals in themes of time, which is obviously something that I'm interested in. It's detailed with these floaty, beautiful melodies and clockworky rhythms and poignantly worded poetry, even though it's not always easy to parse. There are like textures of meaningful conversations with close friends, but not the actual content of it, but the sounds that that kind of conversation makes. In the background, you can hear him say, expand on that to someone. I don't know, like I just want to I was like, I want to hear what he's saying, you know? There's imagery of family gatherings. Just seems to be about finding your connection with the world and people around you, and it's an album from someone who has found meaning and lets that shine through, but doesn't explain how they did it, which kind of makes it more powerful to me. Also, this is possibly the first time that an album has made me want to read a book. Yeah, I don't know, I just really like it. I may never do this again, but if I do, it probably just means that I've come across some stuff that I find interesting or beautiful or worth highlighting. And even then, I don't know if I want to share that online necessarily. So, whoever sees this, I hope you enjoyed it. And, yeah. And thank you for your time. See you later. Gather like a storm, my warm and handsome crowd. Thoughts have taken form that I need to tell someone about. Before the hands that tell my time have finally spun out, would you please seize this moment with me?